Hi, I'm Rachel from Ray K Books, and today I'm going to be interviewing Corey Ann Haydu, and we're going to be promoting Life by Committee. So, hello, Corey.
Hi, it's nice to be here.
Yes, and so the first thing I'm going to ask is, can you please give the audience a synopsis of Life by Committee?
Yeah, absolutely. So, Life by Committee is about a girl named Tabitha who lives in super small town Vermont. She has really young parents, and she's recently sort of lost all her friends. They've all sort of stopped being friends with her. Aside from, there's one girl who's still hanging on, a sort of newer friend. She's involved with someone else's boyfriend, which I know not everyone loves, or probably no one loves. And she gets involved in an online community that is sort of like Truth or Dare meets Post Secret. People share their secrets and receive assignments that they have to complete to keep their secrets anonymous. Yeah, and it's just about sort of her entering into that world and the effect it starts to have on her life.
So you said it's kind of like Post Secret. I agree with it. So has that been were you thinking about Post Secret when thinking up this book?
No, not at all. Actually, the idea for the book came from a movie that I really love called "Love Me If You Dare," and this is going to sound super pretentious, but it's this really amazing French film that's sort of like Amelie, but way darker. And has a similar structure of like escalating dares that start out sort of innocent and become much more dangerous. So I wanted to do something similar to that movie, but give it sort of a twist that's a little more current and a little more teen, and do my own stuff with it. So yeah, so that I just sort of was like, how do teens communicate, and what's a way that you could get involved in something a little dangerous, and I thought online was sort of the perfect way to capture that.
So with this Life by Committee, the owner kind of is like her hero at first.
Yeah,
Like she really looks up to this person, and then it
totally.
gets a little dark. So
hmm
when do you think on the book, during the book, it kind of clicks for her where she's like, this isn't right?
I think it's pretty late in the game that Tabitha starts to, get more freaked out by Life by Committee. When she enters it, she's going through, and I tried to build this into the book a lot, a moment of like intense loneliness, and just lacking sort of community and people to talk to and share with, and that's what's leading her into the community. And I think for a while, like it just feels so good to have someone to talk to and someone to give her advice and like mentor her and push her beyond her sort of normal boundaries. I think that's so exciting for a while that she doesn't notice, that there's a scarier aspect to it.
And then her parents are a little off. Her father is not really, is a druggie kind of. So what kind of brought that on?
Um, let's see. I guess I'm always interested in the line between parents and children, and when that line starts to get a little more gray instead of so black and white. And I think, at least for me, and I think for a lot of people, that's something that starts to happen when you're entering your teen years. You start to see your parents aren't perfect, and they're not making all the right decisions, and they're not doing all the right things. And that process is really painful and can be really traumatic. And so I wanted a character I wanted Paul, her dad, to have flaws, and to that line to be getting really blurry, but also to be a good dad in other ways, to not be sort of a black and white character. And so I also made them super young to sort of further blur that line, and not excuse his behavior, but like give context to what's happening. That they were super young, and they've done a great job for being teen parents, and they're flawed, sort of like everyone else.
And then is there going to be a sequel for this?
No, there aren't any plans for a sequel at the moment, although I've had a couple of readers say they really want to hear Star's story. She's one of the members of Life by Committee. We never meet her in real life. She's a member that we sort of know anonymously on the site. And she has a very sort of romantic journey. And I've had a couple of readers be like, "Are you going to write her story?" And there's something about that sounds appealing. So you never know. Maybe I'll try to revisit Star someday. But I think probably that's it with Tabitha.
So at the end of the book, there's a little bit of romance, like just a tiny bit of it, but it's kind of like a dot, dot, dot at the end. You don't
Yeah.
really know. Can you give a little bit on what that dot, dot, dot is? Are they going to make it?
Hmm.
I
Well,
just love
spoilers.
romance.
Yeah, I know. Everyone wants a happy ending. I think they have a good chance. I'm not an author that feels like I always know what's happening later with my characters. I sort of write the ending and feel like it's just as ambiguous as it is for the reader. Probably the same was true with OCD Love Story. I'm like, I assume like everyone else, there's some ups and downs. But I think she's at least opening herself up to pursuing something new and better for her, and that we're leaving her off at least opening up to better situations.
Is there a message in your novel that you want readers to grasp?
I don't know that there's a message for the novel in particular, although I will say that in general when I'm writing, and this was true for my first book and is true with this book, I like to think about compassion, and I hope Tabitha sort of inspires that for people the same way I think Bia did, where they're imperfect people and trying to relate to people's bad decisions and flaws and try to reach understanding about them. So there's not a message, I guess, from the book, but I sort of write with that in mind, with trying to feel compassion for things that maybe we don't understand.
Are experience based on someone you know or events in your own life kind of go into this book?
Yeah, this one in particular has a lot from my own life. I was in a really similar situation with my friends that Tabitha is in, with sort of having a really tight-knit group of friends that I had through middle school, and then losing them in a way that felt really confusing and, in a very similar way to her. And also feeling like getting judged for something that was beyond my control, which I think Tabitha is as well. Like, being told you're one thing and, actually feeling like you're something else. Someone saying you're this type of person and feeling certain that you're not that type of person. So yeah, a lot of little things like that are taken from my life. And the school's not really based exactly on my school, but there's a lot of moments that are close to what I experienced, but nothing. I never take directly. I sort of borrow little bits and pieces and mash up characters.
How did you come up with the title? It's very self-explanatory. Is that the reason? Like Life by Committee? It's easy to figure out what it is, but why that title?
It's so long ago. I'm trying to think of like how that even came into my head. I was spending a lot of time when I was first, thinking about this book and trying to figure out how I was going to do it. I spent a lot of time on like different teen chat rooms and sort of like support group-ish ones. That's what I felt would be the most helpful. And I guess, I don't know, I was trying to think of something catchy that captured the idea of not living by yourself. Like I said, it's so much about loneliness to me. I wanted it to capture, like, you won't be in it alone anymore. You'll be living your life with other people. You'll have support. So yeah, I think I just played with those different terms and moved them around and came up with it.
So what was the most challenging thing about writing this book?
This book was a huge challenge for me because it's a lot more plot focused than my first book was, which was a more sort of interior character driven book. And I would say this is character driven as well, but it has a really strong plot structure, and that's not really my like strong point in writing. That's what I struggle the most with. So just sort of organizing the arc of the book was really challenging for me. And I did a huge. I always do really massive edits because I write pretty messy first drafts. But I really had to restructure like the entire plot, after I already had a draft of it. So yeah, working through cause and effect and motivation and getting from point A to point B was hard with this one.
How many drafts do you think that you went through?
Oh man, I'd say I did probably 4 really large revisions, probably 2 like massive like rewrites, 2 really big revisions, and then probably another 2 to 3 rounds of smaller stuff. But there were definitely 2 like practically rewrites. It was my thesis project for graduate school. So I had sort of the draft that I turned in for grad school, and then within a year it was like a whole different book.
So what was the like main character kind of the same throughout those edits, or did you change her personality?
I kept the character pretty consistent. Tabby stays sort of the same throughout, I think. Yeah, since I felt so connected to her, she sort of stayed consistent, and her circumstance stayed consistent, but maybe a little more amped up to give her a little more justification.
And which actress would you like seeing playing the lead character?
Well, it's such a hard question. Also, it's hard because I'm so so much older than these characters would be, so all my reference points are like totally outdated. I guess I don't know who the modern equivalent of this would be, but someone like a Kristen Bell, who I think has that feeling of being like really looking really clearly one way, but having more depth and humor, and I think someone like that looks really classically sort of cute and blonde and whatever, but that underneath has more going on.
So now we're going to be playing a game called Would You Rather. And what you rather is, or would you rather is, I will ask Corey a question like, would you eat apples or oranges for the rest of your life? And then Corey would have to say either apples or oranges, except this is literature edition. So the first one is, would you rather live in the world of Hunger Games or Divergent?
Oh, man. I think maybe Divergent. I feel like there's a little more hope there. So I find Hunger Games like a way more depressing world for some reason, and Divergent feels like there's more sort of room to break out. Hunger Games feels a little more restrictive to me. Plus, I don't know, the whole concept of Hunger Games terrifies me.
You are not alone. You are not alone. Would you rather fight next to Hermione from Harry Potter, Katniss from Hunger Games, or Tris from Divergent?
Oh, definitely Hermione. I love her so much. Yeah, I would do anything to hang out with her.
Would you rather read a book that is written poorly but has an excellent story, or read one with weak content but is written well?
Definitely written well. I think even sort of books that I read that are fluffier and not super literary tend to be like well written in that genre. I can't really stand like super bad writing, but I think there's really good writing in a ton of different genres.
Who would you rather have as a child, Harry Potter or Hermione Granger?
I'm gonna go Hermione again. She's
would you
such
rather?
Yeah. So fiery.
Okay, so would you rather write novels where all the characters are women or all men for the rest of your writing career?
All women. I'm not good at men characters.
Would you rather only write books in trilogies or standalones for the rest of your writing career?
Definitely standalones.
Would you rather write a book without using conjunctions or have every sentence of your book begin with one?
Without using them.
Would you rather write a plot twist you hated or write a character you hated?
I don't ever hate characters, so I'll say a character I'd rather write a character other people would hate, but there's no characters that I hate.
Would you rather a super successful movie be made from one of your books or a long-lasting television series?
Ooh. Maybe a television series because there'd be less pressure for it to fit the book exactly, and I could maybe feel more like free, like let go of it more easily.
And then the last one, would you rather critics rip your book apart publicly or never talk about it at all?
Rip it apart publicly. I think if you're making people angry, you're doing a good job, probably.
And that concludes our game. Yay!
Yeah,
Good job.
I like that.
So we have some Twitter question, or we have a Twitter question.
Great.
And this person asks, can you talk about your outlining process if you outline?
Sure. So I do not outline at all. I'm a totally chaotic, seat of the pants writer. I start with like a really vague concept. For instance, my next book, Making Pretty, I just asked myself the question, what would it be like to be a teenager whose dad is a plastic surgeon? And that's it. That's all I had going into writing the book. And I write scenes. I just sort of put different characters in interaction with each other and hope that plot emerges. And it usually does not emerge for quite some time. So I have to write, probably for an 80,000 word book, I write maybe 300 to 400,000 words, just trying to find story in scenes.
Are you Team Gail or PETA?
Oh, PETA. I feel like no one's Gail. No one's Team Gail.
I'm Team Gail.
I never meet Team Gail.
They're out there. They are out there.
Wow. In the movies, I think he's cuter, but in the books, I'm all for PETA.
He is cuter in the movies. I love his brother. What's his name? Chris Hemsworth?
Yeah, that's a good-looking family.
So true. Such a good-looking family. And then, what is your favorite book turned movie?
Oh, I love, this is going back a little bit, but I love Matilda. I think they did a really good job adapting Matilda for film. It's such a great, it's a beautiful book, and that little girl, I forget her name right now, that plays Matilda in the movie is like the greatest and totally captures the spirit of that character, who's such an awesome character.
Did you know that Matilda is now a Broadway show?
Yes, I've seen it.
You have?
Yeah, it's super fun. It's a really fun Broadway show.
Oh, good. Yeah. I'm glad you got to see it. I haven't really heard any reviews.
Sorry, what's that?
I said I haven't really heard reviews, so I'm glad that you say it's
pretty fun. I also have a soft spot for watching like kids excel at stuff like that. It's all these like amazing child actors, killing it, being unbelievably talented and ridiculous. So it's a pretty fun watch.
So where can you see yourself in 5 years?
I'm super happy with how things are right now. So I'm sort of hoping I get the opportunity to keep doing what I'm doing. And I have a middle grade book coming out next year, so I hope my middle grade career takes a similar path to the one my YA career is taking. I'd love to be doing more school visits and interacting more with readers and stuff like that. But yeah, hopefully kind of being given the freedom to do what I'm doing now, which is writing what I love and not getting really held back that much, mostly just getting supported by my editor and agent, and living in Brooklyn and having my little dog, and yeah, things are good. So hopefully it stays the same.
If you could have been the original author of any book, what would it have been and why?
Ooh, that's a really hard one. Oh man, I'm gonna say The Giver because it's just one of my favorite books of all time, and so unique and so like ahead of its time, and strange and interesting and deep and I don't know, has such a long life too. I think that's above all else what writers want, to have generations and generations of kids reading their work. And man, Lois Lowry like really got that, with all of her books, but with The Giver in particular, it's resonated for so long and had such a far-reaching influence. I can't think of like a better thing to have had be mine.
Are you excited for the movie?
I'm really nervous about the movie. I will definitely go see it, but I don't have a ton of faith that it's gonna be what I want it to be. And I'm not a stickler. Like I tend to enjoy adaptations and sort of accept them on their own terms. But The Giver is special enough to me that if they make it cheesy and I don't know, I'll be more devastated than usual.
No, I understand. Ella Enchanted, my favorite book, the movie.
Yeah.
I was almost in tears. I did not like it. I hope you aren't moved to tears like me.
I hope so too. I'm nervous I think when they cast Katie Holmes is about when I started feeling that like nervousness in the pit of my stomach. Like, oh no, what are they doing?
I hear Taylor Swift is going to be in it too.
Oh no. I would have loved it to be like filled with unknowns. When it's so iconic like that, I think you want it to be not people from other places. You want it to be new people that you haven't really seen that much of. Although Jeff Bridges, I think, is a good call for The Giver. Yeah. There's good people in there, but I don't know.
So, if you had to choose, which writer would you consider a mentor?
Because of their writing or in like personal.
I don't know. Anyway.
So my thesis advisor at the new school was Patricia McCormick, who wrote Cut and Sold and a bunch of other wonderful books. So I really consider her a mentor. She's a really special person who's written really also wrote really challenging material. Cut was like super ahead of its time. I think it's been out for 10 years now, sort of before people were really talking about things like self-harm and mental health issues and things that were still really uncomfortable in YA. She was going for it and like not holding back. So both in her writing and just as a human being, she's a pretty important mentor to me.
And so now we're going to play our second game. So
Great.
Exciting. It's called Fill in the Blank with the first word that pops into your head.
Okay.
So it sounds like the title is what happens, but I'm just going to explain it. So I'm going to say a sentence, and then when I say blank, you have to finish it with one word.
Okay.
Just
got it. Got it.
So the first one is, when I first sit down to write, I blank.
Make sure I have coffee. Oh, I can only have one word. Oh, I didn't listen to your rules already. When I first sit down to write, I drink.
When I write, I have to have blank.
Coffee.
When creating a new character, I want them to have blank.
Flaws.
All great mysteries have to have blank.
Twists.
I don't like a book when it has blank.
Ooh. I can't answer that one. Yeah.
That's fine. When I read a bad review of my book, I blank.
One word is so hard. Ignore.
My character reaches out of the pages, takes my hand, and I blank.
Smile.
And that concludes our game. Yay!
That was hard. I'm not used to one word.
Yeah, well, you did a really good job. So, it doesn't matter. You aced it. Gold star.
Phew.
So, one of my last questions, because we're almost done with the interview, very sad, is do you read 1-star, 2-star reviews of your book?
I will admit, when it first comes out, I will read most reviews that are coming out, and then after a couple weeks, I tend to pull back and try to stop looking. I'm hoping with this next book, maybe I'll not look at all, because I do think it, even the good reviews, I think, can confuse you. So I read them, but I'm trying not to, and I read them on my own terms. So I don't love when people tweet them at me.
And then you kind of brought up a good point that I didn't touch on this. What are you working on next?
Oh, yeah. So I have 2 books coming out next year. One is a young adult novel called Making Pretty that's about sisters in New York and a sort of chaotic love story and a crazy summer. And the other is my first middle grade novel, and that's called Rules for Stealing Stars, and that is also a sister story that is about sort of family secrets and has a little bit of magic in it too, which is new for me. So that's what I have coming up next year.
Do you know the release dates?
For Making Pretty, that will be May 12th, 2015. And Rules for Stealing Stars, I don't have a date. I just know it's fall 2015.
So right now, are you working on 2 books at the same time, or which one are you working on right now?
Both of those are actually pretty much done, or they're at stages that are with my editor. So I'm currently working on a new YA novel that is with my agent at the moment, and also my second middle grade, which will come out in 2016, and that is going to be sort of tonally similar to my first one, where it's going to sort of tackle difficult issues with a little bit of magic involved.
So a lot of your characters, I've noticed, have flaws in them, which is good. Everybody likes, not a lot of people like flawless characters.
No.
I mean, it's not realistic.
No.
So do you think, what makes a flawless character? Like, having flaws makes it flawless. You know what I'm saying? Like, what makes a perfect character in your eyes?
Oh, for me, what would be a perfect character that I love to write? I try to go deep. When you're writing in first person, you try to kind of go deep into all the terrible things we all think every day. So someone that is having a lot of difficult thoughts and, whose behaviors, who's trying. I like to write a character who's trying, who's not perfect, but is trying to do better.
And then my last question to you is, do you have any advice for aspiring writers?
Yeah, I mean, you're going to hear this from most writers, but write as often as you can, especially if you're in any sort of process where you're starting to query or do anything like that. You always want to be working on something new and be writing and pushing forward. Whatever that means for you, it doesn't have to be every day, but continuing to do it and push through the really difficult days is the most important part, I think.
And that concludes our interview. So now I'm going to be talking about the giveaway that Corey is having. Thank you very much. She's giving away Life by Committee, and this is for U.S. only, and it ends in a week, which is the 14th. And in order to win, this live chat is going to become a YouTube video. And when it becomes a YouTube video, I'd like you to comment on that video. And the second thing, this is optional because not everybody has Twitter, is to follow Corey on Twitter. And I will put her Twitter handle in the description when I can, but it's her name, Corey Ann Haydu. And then put your username in the comment so I can verify the entry. So if you only do those two things, you can be entered. And I think that's it. Yep, that's it. Thank you so much, Corey. I had a great time talking to you.
That was awesome. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.